Women and networking. What are the truths? What are the myths? Welcome to another episode of Yes, She Can, a series that tries to discuss the truths and the myths surrounding what a woman can and cannot do. Today's guest, Carole Still, is going to help us talk about the challenges, the myths, the truths, the critical aspects of networking, especially for women. How different is it for men? What are the do's and the don'ts? And how can we harness our networks to better suit us and our lives, our day-to-day lives? So stay tuned. Hello, Carolyn. Thank you once again for joining me. I had you on for the lockdown chats, and so it's a pleasure to have you for Yes, She Can. How are you doing?
My pleasure. I'm doing very well, thank you. And how are you doing?
Not bad at all, not bad at all. So the reason why I brought you in, I was reading a Harvard Business Review some time back, and it said the first line, that despite their many efforts, networking continues to challenge women. And I thought, oh, wait, really? I don't know, I had my doubts. Am I wrong to think that networking for men is the same as for women, or are there differences?
It's a good question. I think at a psychological level, it's the same. The psychology of networking for men and the psychology for women, that's really around our level of comfort and self-confidence. So I do think that's the same. Perhaps where the differences come in is when we are physically networking. So, I'm talking about going to events, being at events. As a woman, when you attend a conference or any sort of a networking event, it can feel quite daunting to be in a room that is largely dominated by men. And I think that's perhaps where the differences come in. But holding on to our self-confidence is what we need to then walk through that room. I was asked this question the other day, actually. How should a woman conduct herself when she's networking in a room that is dominated by men?
That was one of my questions.
And of course, I've had to do this over so many years. And what I've learned is that, and I'm positioning this sort of in the City of London, where the uniform of the City of London is a dark grey suit or a black suit, typically. And so I looked at what men wore, and I looked at how I could both fit in and stand out. And clearly I'm going to stand out as one of the few women in the room, but I also wanted to signal that I was looking to fit in. And so I had 2 or 3 suits that were my city, sort of dark grey, dark navy, but a dark, very plain suit. And I would dress it up with a brightly coloured blouse, or a brightly coloured polo shirt, and make sure that I wore sensible shoes, sensible in terms of walking, but not sensible in terms of, are they terribly boring shoes? I would wear shoes that I was comfortable in, and that's how I would fit in. So outwardly, I'm wearing the same uniform, but I'm differentiating myself. My color of hair, of course, is different style, different blouse, and then I would just walk into a room and walk tall. And give myself permission to be there. And I think that's critical. Give yourself permission to be there.
Yeah.
And then we will find a way of walking through the room.
Exactly.
Keeping our head held high.
Yeah. I think it was Brené Brown who said that if you look around the world for things to say that you don't belong, you would find it. And so I think it's critical for you to be comfortable in who you are in your own skin and walk tall, even though you are very different. And then sometimes I think one of the challenges is you don't want to be in a room and the first thing someone notices about you is, oh, she's a woman. Because most of the time you are either the only different person or the only woman there or the first woman to ever enter the room. And you don't want that to be your brand. You want to be known for what's between your ears. You want to be known for your capabilities. So how do you set yourself apart from your clothes? What else can you pick up to kind of network properly?
I would say learn their language. So a typical example would be, if there's a World Cup going on, be aware of what's happening in the man's world. And sports is a great way of bringing people together. Now, I don't at all pretend that I'm an expert on sports. I'm absolutely not. But I do follow the news, I follow the trends, I listen to what people are talking about, and I make sure I have enough that I can at least feel comfortable in a conversation. So walking into a room that's full of men, our brand is what we need to be using. We are women, and that's something for us to celebrate. And it comes back to confidence. If we walk into a room with the best accessory that we have, which is our self-confidence, and we have the language of the room, there is absolutely no reason why we should then listen to those little voices in our head that say, oh, you're a woman, what are they going to think? No, we are human beings. We are a person. We are a valid person. And we understand the language of the room, and we're just going to use that to our benefit.
That's interesting. Wow. So one other thing that was noted in the article is most women kind of network with their peers or with the same gender, for example. What's the danger in that, and what are the benefits in doing that?
Well, the benefits is that it feels comfortable. The danger is that comfortable leads to complacency. And, networking, the strength of networking are actually in the weak ties that we have, not in the strong ties. Because if we are networking with everybody that we know, then it's like we're swimming in the same pool and everybody knows everybody in that pool. And that will feel nice and comfortable. But if we want to be expanding our networks, we have to have the courage to jump out of our pool and go into another pool. So the advantage is it feels comfortable. The disadvantage is it can constrain us. And we need to have that confidence to move into different areas.
So what then is a real differentiator for women in particular when it comes to networking?
You mean in terms of online connections?
Online or in person?
I would say it's your identity. And here's the thing with identity. If we were individually on an island, and so if I was the only person on an island, I wouldn't have an identity, because identity is what other people see. Of course, I would still have my personality and my character, but I wouldn't have an identity unless there was a mirror on the island and then I'm looking at myself and now I can see. So how other people see you is your identity. And therefore the power in knowing that is it puts you in charge of what it is you want them to see. What do you want to be known for? What do you want people to remember when you walk out of the room? Mm-hmm. Do you want them to remember you for the amazing suit you wore? Or do you want them to remember you for the contribution into the conversation or for your expertise. So we are in control of how we present ourselves. We're not in control of how we are perceived. And we need to be, I would say, aware of that our identity is what other people give us. But we can project what it is we want people to remember us by.
Yeah. So when I was checking online, some of the myths that came up was, well, maybe you can speak on that, whether it's a myth or it's true, that networking is insincere and manipulative and political, and networking should be done after you've done the real work, after you've done everything, so that you have something to prove. What then do you say to people like that? How critical is networking in terms of that?
I would say networking is essential. And not to, I always encourage people to be in control of what they think and what they want to project, and not to worry about these 10 things you must do when you network, because then that creates a barrier between you and the intention of networking. You know, we don't want to be standing there thinking, oh, okay, I've done 1, I've done 3, I've done 6, but oh, what about 2, 4, 5, 8, and 9? I can't remember what they are. And what that does is it creates a barrier between you and whoever you're speaking with, because you're now trying to remember a structure rather than seeing the human being in front of you and responding to the conversation in the moment. And I keep bringing it back to the confidence and the permission we give ourselves to network. Of course, there are all sorts of self-help books out there that for some people will resonate with them, and for other people it won't. I'm always very careful, at least I hope I'm very careful, not to be giving, you must do these 4 steps, because every situation will be different. I would encourage people to understand and to know more about what your purpose is, what it is you want to achieve. So I would be asking people questions to help them prepare for them to network, as opposed to giving them a formula for, well, if you do this, then you'll get that. Because if you don't have a purpose, if you don't have an interesting conversation with the human being that you are in front of, then it doesn't matter how much structure you put in place, it's still not going to work.
You talked about questions, asking yourself relevant questions. What are some of the things that you can ask yourself?
I would say that the questions that start with the words that we use in mediation and conflict resolution, these are called calibrated questions. So, what am I looking to achieve? Where do I need to go to achieve it? How will I turn up? How will I show up in the room? What do I want people to remember me by? I would be asking myself these questions. And if I was helping somebody prepare for them to go to a networking event or networking in general, I would be asking them these questions, these calibrated what, how, where, and when questions.
Yeah.
Because that will give us some answers. And then we practice in front of the mirror, practice wearing the clothes you're going to wear when you go into an event. Practice wearing the shoes. Can you walk in them properly? Are they going to hurt your feet? Because if you are in pain, and you know, as women, we all know we've tried to push our feet into those gorgeous shoes, and we think they're fantastic when we're standing still, but try and walk in them, and it's a whole different ballgame. If we're in pain, it's going to show on our faces. It's going to show in our posture. Yeah. So I would say ask yourself these what, how, where, and when questions. Think about the clothes you're going to wear. And let's be honest, if you're wearing clothes that expose a part of your body that people are naturally, whether they're men or women, going to look, if you're happy with that, fair enough. If you don't want them to look, then make sure you're wearing clothes that divert their eyesight somewhere else.
That's an important point. And I think when you were teaching us about networking back in uni, you talked about where to put your name tag. Yeah. And as a woman, it could be very important. Can you just hammer a little on that?
Absolutely. So if you think about it, most people put their name tag on the left, and certainly men will put their name tag on their left because that tends to be where the breast pockets are. The best place to put your name tag is on the right, not on the left, because when you're going forward to shake hands with somebody, then you're putting your name closer to their visible area. As a woman, if you've got long hair, whether you wear your badge on the left or your right, if you've got long hair and you're covering your badge, it's pointless wearing a badge. If you're wearing a dress that it's difficult to put the pin in, that's a challenge for you. I always carry my own name badge. Always. And some people say, well, isn't that a bit silly? Shouldn't you just be wearing the name badge that you're given? Well, why? What rule is there that says you have to wear the name badge somebody has given you? If the name badge that you've been given has your name on it, but it's so tiny people can't see it, then there is no value in that name badge. The value is when people can see your name and are able to repeat your name back to you. So always carry a spare. So I have one that has a magnetic connection to it. So if I've been given one that is difficult for me to wear on the clothes that I'm wearing, then I'll bring my own out. I will still carry the name badge that I've been given, and perhaps pin it to the brochure that I've been given or something, so that people can still see that I am a valid attendee and I've been given a name badge, but I'm using my own name badge.
Okay. And then one other myth that I saw was someone said, well, networking is just for corporate people. I'm a housewife. What is networking for me? Do I even need to network? So in your definition, what would that be?
Oh, definitely. We do need to network because, and I've had people say to me exactly as you've said, but it's a business skill. It isn't. It's a life skill. There is as much need for parents to network at the school gate as there is for a business person, man or woman, to network in a business environment. Because we need to ask ourselves, why are we networking? We're networking because we're building a community around us. We're building a community of support. So whether that's at the school gate, whether it's in the corporate office, or anywhere in between, networking is absolutely an essential skill for everybody to do. Can you imagine being a parent and not having a community around you? And the isolation that would create, if you suddenly need some help.
Yeah.
Networking is critically important for us as human beings to connect with other human beings.
Exactly. Well, so finally, Carole, just a final message on the critical aspects of networking that is worth noting for anybody in any office or hierarchy or home, or even in this virtual world that we are in right now. What are some of the critical aspects that we can take home?
Developing your self-confidence. We know that will take time, but the commitment to developing your confidence is essential. When you're in an environment where you're speaking with other people, your breathing and your posture are essential. Think about it in terms of being in the wild. If our breathing is anxious, we're not going to be in a position to defend ourselves. If our posture is closed, we're not going to be in a position to show our true selves. So your breathing, your posture, and your self-confidence will take you everywhere.
Amazing. Well, amazing. Thank you very much, Carole, for this time. We really appreciate it. So many nuggets we can take with us as women trying to network and the importance of networking. So I have benefited so much from you on previous sessions, and I'm still benefiting. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
It's my great pleasure. Thank you.